So how did this avid meat eater go soft and end up joining Team Veganism? Well, I'm here to tell you the story of how I decided that going vegan was the best move for me. If you're looking to join Team Vegan, I hope my story can be a source of inspiration or encouragement for you, and maybe it can help you take steps in that direction yourself. It's always a good idea to surround yourself with like-minded people when bravely venturing off into these unconventional new worlds. If you're here and you're vegan already, we're already friends. If you eat animals, however, I'm just kidding. You're more than welcome here too. I was once on your team, as a matter of fact. Yet here we are. Welcome back to Better Echo's personal growth ideas to help uplift the world. It's great to have you here. So how did the meat-eating version of myself go the way of the vegan buffalo? Smile and breathe. And just be. Let's dive in. I want to start out by saying that I never had any intentions of going vegan at all, but looking back on my life, it kind of does make a lot of sense. Let's start out in my early childhood. In my childhood, I used to eat fried fish sticks when I was little. It was a favorite of mine, but I kind of decided to stop eating fish super early on, maybe between the ages of 4 and 7. That could have been because my family went fishing and I saw what the animal actually looked like, and it didn't look anything like what was coming out of the oven, those delicious fried fish sticks. That's not what they were. Everything that I saw come out of the ocean was slightly terrifying to me on some level. We would catch these ugly spider crabs, not those cute red ones. We would catch sea robins, which were scary, tangles of seaweed, and the edible fish that we saw and threw back that actually even looked like fish threw me off too. Everything was kind of just gross. I never ate eggs. I always thought they were kind of disgusting. I can't even remember having an omelet ever in my life or any preparation of egg, other than the little pieces of egg that sneak into fried rice. But I even got to the place where I would pick that out. I thought milk was gross when I was young. I drank it because I was told to, that whole calcium propaganda, but as soon as it was up to me, I stopped. I stayed away from cheese growing up too. I would have a hamburger, but not a cheeseburger. For a while there, I would even remove the cheese from my pizza. I saw my cousin do it once and I thought it would be a good move, so I ate cheeseless pizza for years. I know, blasphemous. Also, I didn't want to eat pig products in those days, which was my choice that my parents kind of honored. So no bacon, no ham, no sausage, and no pepperoni. It all sounded vile to me. The only thing that I would eat that was pig-related was liverwurst, and maybe that's because I didn't know what animal it came from at that age. So a lot of that changed in my teenage years. I had never eaten bacon until I was about 15 years old. Friends of mine literally tackled me at band practice one day and made me eat it. And it was delicious. From there, it was a feeding frenzy. At this point, I was eating cows, pigs, chickens, still no fish, no eggs, and no milk. There was a point that I tried lobster to be polite at a friend's house, but I was almost gagging the entire time. Super not for me, that texture, I don't jive with that. I was also eating pizza with cheese on it by then, so I was redeemed. At that time, I'd taken a few drum lessons with this guy, and he was a vegetarian. He talked about how there was DNA from over 100 cows in one hamburger, and that didn't really sit right with me. I didn't do anything about it at that time, but I knew that it sounded a little gross at the very least. It was around this time that I first heard the word vegan, and at first it felt like an easy thing to laugh at. A girl at our school was vegan, and I heard people making fun of her behind her back. Not cool, but I started to hear more and more people make fun of vegans. So I started hearing a lot of anti-vegan stuff, like, for every animal you don't eat, I'll eat 3. And unfortunately, I'm sure I made jokes like that myself at some point or another. Also not cool. Jump forward to my early roaring 20s. This is when I really started having my eyes opened. Online, here and there, I started seeing these random slaughterhouse clips on places like Facebook and videos of videos of farts. You can't see farts. Videos of factory farmed animals being tortured and killed. And of course I didn't like what I saw, but I mostly tried to just kind of push them out and forget them. They always made me upset, but my taste buds were winning that part of the argument. I started hearing that red meat wasn't the healthiest thing for you, and that some of it was even considered carcinogenic, so I started cutting down on that. Soon my red meat consumption had become very rare. Pun. Since I was basically off red meat at that time, I was stuck on white meat. and I was heavily into Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich, which was fire. Now, around this time in my life, I started dating a girl who was a vegetarian, who would eventually become my lovely wife, but she was not why I switched. I cannot stress that enough. I was still eating meat, but she never preached, pushed, or proselytized to me about changing my diet ever. Not once. She didn't even hint. I ate whatever I wanted, and she wouldn't even wince or give me a judgmental glare when we went out together. Now, she did cook vegetarian whenever she would come to my place, which I happily ate, but I still ate plenty of white meat at that time. So I had already severely reduced my red meat intake because I learned it wasn't healthy for you, half maybe through my parents and half just through exposure in the world. But towards the end of my phasing it out fully, my coworkers started noticing. I worked at Guitar Center at that time, and a coworker recommended a YouTube video of Gary Yourofsky. I put off watching it for a while, getting those same spicy chicken sandwiches at Wendy's still, and the carnitas bowl at Chipotle, kind of bomb, but don't eat that now. But one Saturday morning, I had the day off from work, and that's when I finally watched Gary's talk. Gary's talk was tough. That's when I learned about how dark the animal agriculture industry really is and how disgustingly we treat living beings for our own selfish purposes. And on that Saturday morning, I went down the YouTube rabbit hole. We all know it all too well.
You watched a Gary Yourofsky video? Here's another one. Oh, you watched another Gary Yourofsky video? Here's another one. Here's what goes on inside of a slaughterhouse. Here's how animals in concentrating feeding operations live. Here's how they kill baby chicks for no reason. Here's how angry employees treat animals, which unfortunately I hear is the rule, not the exception. Here's how animals scream when they're being gassed or beaten. Here's how they slash cows' throats while they're hanging upside down. Here's how baby calves die in the mother's womb while the mother dies while it's hanging upside down. Here's how they bolt livestock in the head to try to kill them, but sometimes don't even die from that, and they have to bolt them multiple times.
What is going on? Essentially, it was all videos about how my food was being made. Crazy. And eventually, I landed on a little documentary called Earthlings. I watched Earthlings, and my whole life changed instantly. I quit meat right away. All meat. And I went vegetarian literally immediately. That day, I knew that I would never consciously consume an animal's flesh ever again. I was honestly scarred for life after watching that, but I'm glad that I learned the truth about the animal agriculture industry so I could change my ways. I also started hating the fur industry, which I knew almost nothing about before Earthlings. That footage got me real messed up. If you wear fur, stop immediately. A few days prior to watching Earthlings, I had gone grocery shopping and I had bought some meat items, so I cooked the remaining meat for my dog, and she ate like a queen for a few days after that. After some time had passed since watching Earthlings, I made some silly kind of slack-off rules for myself, like I would only consider eating meat if my mom or my nana made it. Now, my parents lived in Virginia at the time, so I never really got the opportunity to have my mom cook meat for me before I changed the rule. The new rule was you can only have meat in nana's cooking. And I don't even think I ever honored that rule either. I eventually phased that out too because I got more and more into vegetarianism as time went on. And the next chance that I had to eat any meat at Nana's table, I wasn't really interested in having any meat. How to insult your Italian Nana 101. Anyways, during that time that those silly rules existed, I truly believe that I never exercised them, and that I had actually stuck with my post-Earthlings decision never to consciously consume an animal's flesh ever again. Somewhere in here, I learned about animal-based soup broths like beef broth in French onion soup or chicken broth in ramen, and I kind of casually allowed them sometimes and avoided them some other times. But I was still eating grilled cheese sandwiches, milk chocolate, cheese plates, ice cream, and pizza with the cheese on it still. My girlfriend's family started asking a ton of questions during the holidays, as everybody's families do. They would ask why I switched. They'd give her a hard time about us being vegetarian. They would talk to us about veganism and how it didn't make any sense for this and that reason, and so on. They also asked if she changed me. I guess it was hard for them to believe that I'm a rational, compassionate, open-minded human who is able to be swayed by convincing evidence against moral atrocities, which is really why I switched. So my girlfriend and I started looking for restaurants that had delicious sounding vegetarian and vegan options, and we found some excellent places. A vegan sandwich shop south of Philadelphia, amazing fake wings at a kitschy eatery on Long Island's North Shore, and we sniffed out the best vegetarian and vegan dishes at every restaurant that we could possibly find locally. Then we planned a trip to California, a major vegan hub in the United States. We challenged each other to go vegan for the whole trip, and with the exception of one piece of cheese that I had on the flight over, literally on the plane, we did it. By the way, hit that like button if you're a fan of vegan food. Beyond Meat, Impossible Burgers, Mac and Chow, which is like mac and cheese but vegan. You wouldn't even notice the difference. Nugs, bananas, acai bowls, tacos, ramen, avocado toast. How are you gonna hate on avocado toast? Leave a like down below if you're a fan of vegan food. Fuego. Anyways, when we got back from Cali, we were way more comfortable with vegan food. On break from work one day, I was challenged by a vegan restaurant owner to consider veganism, and I thought about it a little bit, but I didn't do it. I soon invented another silly rule that was kind of really helpful to me at the time, actually, and it was called Seganism. Now, Seganism is the concept that if I can clearly see that something is not vegan, I wouldn't eat it. Like pizza or grilled cheese, because you can see the cheese, the thing that makes it not vegan. But if something had non-vegan ingredients in it that I couldn't see, I would still allow it. Like cookies with butter in the batter, or pancakes with egg in the batter, or milk chocolate because I couldn't physically see the non-vegan ingredient. Silly, I know, but this rule actually helped me make my transition to veganism a lot easier. So we started buying vegan meat products more around this time, like vegan Beyond Burgers, which quickly became a staple in my diet. I would have 2 at a time sometimes. Some vegetarian fake meat products like chicken finger substitutes had egg whites in them, and we wished that they didn't use that stuff, so we started to become label checkers, which is a crazy phase of veganism, as my fellow vegans can tell you, and found ourselves phasing away from Seganism and leaning more into actual veganism. My biggest step towards veganism during this time was refusing to buy gummies with gelatin in them. Shout out, just for a moment, to Sour Patch Kids for being there for me in that difficult time. They are vegan. The more you know. Then I learned peripherally about honey and how the colony can be stressed out in the production of honey, or how sometimes they rip the queen bee's wings off, and that was upsetting to me. Why should that have to happen? So honey fell out of my diet. After that, I went down the YouTube rabbit hole yet again, and the footage I saw enraged me yet again. I continued to learn, but this time around, I knew that it was time for me to join the fight against the terribleness of how we exploit these animals for our own selfishness and our own wants. And I say wants because they are not needs. Our taste buds are not more important than an animal's life. Shout out to Earthling Ed. Around this time, I had a conundrum about silk. Weird, I know, but that's what happened. I was considering ordering some nice silk ties for my job, but I remembered a picture I had seen recently that talked a little bit about how silk is an animal product, and that never really clicked with me before. With 4 silk ties in my cart, and I was about to click buy, I went and watched a few videos on how silk was produced, and decided against the ties. Sad because the ties were super fresh, but you know, morals. And that brings us to today. I'm still pretty new to stricter veganism, but I feel good about where I am right now. I can't think of a non-vegan item that I could make an exception for and feel good about it. It's been quite a journey, but one thing I'm absolutely certain of is that I will never consciously consume an animal's flesh ever again. I have heard that 80% of vegetarians go back to eating meat at some point, and that is not me at all. I am done with meat forever. My will is so strong because my why is so strong, and I'm thrilled to have stopped contributing to the torture and exploitation of innocent living beings that goes on in these awful, horrible, horrendous industries. If you're not a vegan yet, I hope this video helps you along your journey. Maybe the Seganism rule can help you out. It was very helpful for me at the time. I know it might sound silly, but that actually really did help. No matter what, keep an open mind. Go do some more research and see where things take you. You should watch Earthlings if you haven't seen it. That's very important. It's almost like a rite of passage in some strange, messed up way in the vegan world. If you're a vegan, that's awesome. Keep going. Fight the good fight and be a light in this world. People need you. And if you eat meat, stop! I'm just playing around. But you should go get informed and learn the truth about what goes on behind the scenes in the food industry. That's something that's important to know. Maybe you'll join Team Veganism at some point too because you watched Earthlings. Who knows? Thanks so much for hanging out. There's a merch link below if you want to support the channel. Subscribe to join the Better Echoes movement, personal growth ideas to help uplift the world. Remember to do something that makes the world a better place this week. People need you. Be loving, strong, creative, and free. Be wise, be thankful, and be at peace. Smile and breathe. And just be. See you next time.